Now, as a principle, now in the previous class we talked mainly about what agents should what agents lawyer should do to this sample agreement, because the agreement was drafted by principal. So it was all in favor of the principal in many ways. That's why I talked mainly about how to change the agreement in favor of the agent, so that the agreement becomes more neutral. But let's look at it from principal's point of view this time. Is there something that the principal should request from this contract? Now, this is all about principal's liability and how to limit it. Does principal need any warranty from agent? What possible scenario is there where principal will be held liable to a third party because of agent's conduct? Is there any way that agent can get principal in trouble? What do you think? Mm-hmm.
And when the agent introduces the product to a third party and the agent does not give proper.
Okay. So is there a provision that covers that possibility? Is there a provision in the agreement that covers the possibility? I mean, that's what warranty is, right? You know, when you look at warranty, don't look at just quality warranty. Look for PL warranty, look for third-party IP non-infringement warranty. And here, agents may need to give a warranty for false advertising, right? And I told you that this PL warranty can be see. This PL warranty, I mean, product liability is a law that's applied to both parties. But product liability provision, the contractual provision, can change, well, it cannot change the law, but it can make the other party pay for the defense. Make the other party responsible for whatever liability that the original party may be responsible for. So you can, by contract, you can shift who provides the defense when someone is held liable for product liability. So as you said, if it's a dangerous product and agents selling the products don't give sufficient warnings to the customers, that can then there is an accident, injury, the manufacturer can be sued, right? The manufacturer can be sued for product liability. And as a principal, or as the manufacturer, you may want to put something in that gives the agent the duty to defend such a lawsuit for product liability. And that will be similar. So agent's warranty is not just this. It's not just indemnification, false advertising. Oops. Now, is there a provision like that in the agreement? Let's look at 10.2. Agent agrees during and after the term of this agreement to indemnify and hold the harmless. Okay, read together. Indemnify and hold the harmless. Okay. This is a typical 면책 조항. Okay, this is typical protection agreement. Principle from 이거 지금 spelling error. It's not from, it's from. From liability, loss, cost, or damages, including reasonable attorney's fees, which principal may incur as a result of claims, demands, or judgments, or any kind of nature by anyone, whoever arising out of resulting from the marketing of the products by agent. Okay. So, if the agent misrepresents the products in marketing them, okay, if agent fails to give warnings about the products, for instance, and because of the failure, there's an accident, and the consumer, sues the principal, then the agent has to provide a defense. And if the agent fails in that defense, then if agent loses that lawsuit, then agent should pay for the judgment. Okay. So that's 10.2. So agent is, as a principal, it is covered. As a principal, that possibility of the risk of getting into trouble because of agent's conduct is covered. How about, as an agent, I mean, the products come from the principal, right? So if the products come from principal, agent always has to ask about all three warranties. Agent has to ask about product liability warranty as well. So, for instance, what if the agent is sued for the product? Okay. Now, let's assume that the product is so high tech that agent cannot do much in reducing the risk of accident. It's so high tech that it comes with a like thick book that is a consumer manual. So everything that happens with the product is controlled by that manual and the customer. The only thing agent does is just turn over the manual. In that situation, agent cannot do much to reduce the risk of accident. What if the agent gets sued? Well, agent may put in product liability warranty whereby principal is required to defend the agent. Okay. Now, is there a provision like that in this agreement? There is no such provision. Okay. There is no such provision. Well, there is something in 10.1 that starts with the principal agrees to indemnify and hold harmless. Let's read it. Let's read what it says. Principal agrees during and after the term of this agreement to indemnify and hold harmless agent from liability, loss, cost, or damages which agent may incur as a result of claims, demands, or judgments of any kind nature by anyone whoever arising out of any breach of the representation warranty set forth in Article 4, or any claim that the products or principal's confidential information infringes any patent, copyright, trade secret, or other intellectual property right of a third party. But there's nothing about product liability. One may say that, hey, any claim arising out of a breach of representation warranties in Article 4. Let's look at what is in Article 4. Remember? Not much. Okay, just says product shall conform to the specifications and shall be merchantable and free from defects. Okay, well, what if there is a defect and the defect causes the injury to others? What happens there? Okay, let's say the product has a defect. Will the principal be responsible for that product liability? Yes, principal will be, because product liability is a law. It's not a contract. It applies to everybody. So principal will be responsible. But will principal be also responsible for if injured customer sues the agent? Does principal have duty to defend that lawsuit? Well, looks like the current draft doesn't have that. Okay. Yes, in 10.1 it says in 10.1 it says principal shall indemnify and hold a harmless agent from liability arising out of any breach of reps and warranties set forth in Article 4. And one of the warranties that the product will conform to the specifications. But so one may read that. And conclude that, okay, if there is a defect and the injury is caused by the defect and somebody sues for that injury, then maybe principal should hold the harmless agent, should protect the agent from the lawsuit. One may read it that way. Okay? But remember what Article 4 said. Article 4 said in 4.5b, in no event shall principal's liability for any breach of such a warranty exceed in amount the price of products in respect of any breach is claimed, right? So, I mean, the cost of defending a lawsuit will be much greater than the price of the products. So Article 4 does not provide product liability warranty for the agent. So if I were the agent, and this is a type of product that product liability may attach, okay, and there is not much agent can do to reduce that risk, then I'll ask for PL warranty. I'll ask for PL warranty, which requires the manufacturer, the principal, to defend the agent. Okay? But don't fight too hard for that. Don't fight too hard for that. You may get it if you're lucky, right? But from agent's perspective, it is a provision that the agent should agent will find useful. If it's a type of product that frequently causes product liability. Okay. Let's go back to the slide. Now you should know how we are using the slide. We are using the slide like a checklist. We go down the slide and look for the provisions. Look for the relevant provisions. All right. As an agent, what else do you need? You need third-party IP non-infringement warranty. You need a warranty that if agent is sued for some patent or copyright violation, principal shall protect. Is there a provision like that? Yes, we actually looked at it already. 10.1. This is a typical third-party IP non-infringement warranty. Well, when can the agent be sued for patent copyright violation relating to the product that the principal has manufactured? When can agent be sued? Well, we don't know, but agent may be sued in situations that we can readily imagine now. Well, we cannot imagine now. Okay. Is there something else we need to do about the agent agreement? No. That's it. That's the last slide for the agent agreement. Okay. Now, let's look at the license agreement. Now, I put on EKU, license agreement. Trademark license agreement. Okay, and let's pull up again the checklist for the license agreement. Actually, we didn't finish going over the license agreement. No. Okay. Well, let's look at the second slide for the license agreement. Again, the first thing that you want to look at when you get a license agreement is whether it is exclusive. If it is exclusive, again, you have to go through all these points which establish the territories for licensor and licensee. Okay? So exclusivity on what rights? Licensor, provision governing licensor's behavior in the territory, licensee's behavior outside the territory, minimum quantity, the size of the territory, efforts level, period, all this applies. Now, there are a few things that you should be familiar with in reviewing license agreement. Now, as to the scope of license, what if a license says all rights? I shall grant B a license of all rights to say X. All rights. Well, it looks like it says all rights. Okay. Then, I mean, when you talked about distributorship, remember? When you talked about distributorship, we had to add things, right? If it's a KX100, now if the distributor wants to be covered, wants to extend the exclusivity on its upgrade, you had to add upgrade. And if you want exclusivity to cover a greater area, you go all the way down to replacement, right? Well, you go all the way up to replacement. Well, in a license agreement, how about just saying all rights to X? X being the, say, patent or trademark. Okay, so patent number 123 or trademark number 234. Isn't this enough, right? That broadens the scope of exclusivity as much as possible, right? I'll surprise you. Well, I'll have to surprise you by saying that that's not enough. Okay? The courts have interpreted all rights as not having the right to modify. Okay? Let's say you have a right to use this famous trademark, and let's say the contract says all rights to this Apple mark. Now, that doesn't mean the court will say, hey, that doesn't mean that you can use this mark in a different way. For instance, changing the colors. Or sometimes take 2 bites out of the apple. Creating derivative is not one of the all rights unless the contract specifically says so. Now, you may wonder why. Why do courts interpret all rights so narrowly? Well, if you think about copyright, it makes sense. Let's say I have all rights to movie X-Men. Okay? Then if this is the if this is the copyright to the movie X-Men, it has these characters and it has the story. Now, since I have the rights to X-Men, can I just take out Wolverine and make a spin-off called Wolverine? That would be unfair to the copyright holder of X-Men. Okay? So that's why just in a license agreement, just saying all rights is not enough. All is never all. All is only the right to use the IP as it is. Okay. Now, what do you get paid for? What do you get paid as a licensor when you license a product? Or when you license an IP, you get a royalty. Royalty is the same as license fee. Now, there's a problem with the international business contracts with the royalty because if something is a royalty, it is subject to withholding. So let's say royalty if royalty is $1 million, between A and B, A in Korea, B in US. Let's say A licenses something to B. Let's say royalty is $1 million. Does B have a duty to pay $1 million to A? No. We have to take off, if it's US Korea, the withholding rate is 15% plus residence tax, 주민세. So you have to take out 16.5% for royalty. So B is responsible for paying only 83.5, 835,000. This is what B will pay. Well, where does 16.5% go to? It goes to the US tax authority. Hey, it's the money that A was supposed to get under the contract. Why does it go to US tax authority? Well, the idea is that if A gets $1 million, A was going to pay tax on it, right? Income tax. And what's the income tax rate in corporate income tax rate in Korea? Last time I checked, it was 27%. So with 주민세, it's 29.7%. So hey, you made $1 million, you're going to pay 29.7% on it. So instead of instead of paying that high percentage, just pay 16.5% from the source. Okay? Isn't it a saving for you? A, right? So that's how the double taxation prevention treaty is set up. So the treaty encourages the parties to not hide income from overseas and pay lower tax. Okay, that's the idea behind double taxation prevention treaty. Then you may wonder, okay, if A receives the $1 million and pay 29.7% tax, who was A going to pay that 29.7%? The Korean tax treaty, right? A Korean tax authority, right? Because it's a Korean company. But here, the money is going to U.S. tax authority. Why? I mean, why is, if it's A's income tax, okay, if it's advance payment of A's income tax, why does the money go to U.S. authority, not Korea? Well, the idea is that there may be C and D, there may be other companies where the relationship is reverse, where C, C has to pay money. Where D is the licensor and has to pay, originally has to pay U.S. tax authority, but because of the withholding, the tax money goes to the Korean tax authority. So two countries, by agreeing, by going into this double taxation prevention treaty, they just assume that there will be a balance. There will be balance between the tax payments. If there are no tax payment, if there is no balance, well, if one side is losing too much money, then they can just cancel the treaty. Okay. The way the U.S.-Korea trade is going, probably the U.S. tax authority is losing a lot more money. No, I'm sorry. The Korean tax authority is losing a lot more money because of. Oh, no. Wait. Yes. U.S. tax authority will be losing a lot of money because a lot of times U.S. companies are licensors whose money upon whose money they were going to pay more tax to the U.S. authority, but they don't have to now because the money, a smaller amount is paid to the Korean authority, or smaller amount is withheld from the royalty and paid over to the Korean authority. But for some reason, the U.S. tax authority is not complaining. That's why Korea and the U.S. have maintained the double taxation prevention treaty. So that becomes, a lot of lawyers forget this withholding, and this can later become a deal breaker because your client may be thinking, oh, okay, I'm getting $1 million, and later find out that I'm getting only $835,000. I didn't make that deal, right? So if you're a good lawyer, you have to put in something about withholding. You have to let your client know. Okay? You have to let your client know that if if your client's licensor, please inform them that they are getting only 83.5%, not 100% of the license fee. If your client is license C, if your client is license C, you also let your client know that you should not pay the full 100% to the licensor. Under the law, if withholding is not done, if a proper withholding is not done, who is responsible? Licensee is responsible. The one paying the royalty is responsible for taking out the withholding and paying to the local tax authority. If the license doesn't do that, if the license forgot to do that, then licensee has to pay the tax. So for instance, in this case, if B forgets to do the withholding and pays $4 million, then U.S. tax authority, so the company B, licensee, if the company B, licensee, forgets to take out the withholding and pays the $4 million, then U.S. tax authority will come to B and say, hey, whatever you paid, we'll just assume that whatever you paid is the result after the withholding. So X times 80 0.835 X is $1 million. So X will be 1 over 0.835. Let's assume that this is a $1.2 million. Okay. Then now you have to pay this times 16.5% to me. Okay. This is what the U.S. tax authority will do. Okay. So there's and most licensors around the world don't like that. They don't like it because if they receive the full $1 million, they don't pay tax on the full $1 million because there is a cost. When you are doing business, there are deductions that you can take from the income. And you can lower the tax liability. I mean, there are a lot of things you can do as a company to reduce tax liability and not pay all 29.7% on the royalty, the $1 million royalty that you got. But if you just take off the top, there's nothing I can do. Okay, if you just take off 16.5% off the top, then these companies cannot do anything to reduce tax liability. So most companies want to receive the full amount. Now, if you are not just a good lawyer, if you are an excellent lawyer, you can advise the client so that they avoid the withholding. There are 3 ways to do the withholding, to avoid the withholding. This is something that you will never find in the books. This is something that you will never learn from your superiors. There's something that I figured out just by having done a lot of international business contracts. If you can somehow turn the contract, turn the license agreement into a service agreement, then service fee, labor cost is not subject to withholding. Then you can receive the full amount. Well, how do you do that? Well, I mean, these days, for instance, software license agreements, almost all software license agreements come with after service provision, maintenance service provision, right? And let's say the originally contract said, the license agreement said, okay, 9 million for license and 1 million for maintenance. If maintenance is 1 million, withholding is taken only on the license part, right? Now, as a licensor, if you want to avoid withholding, you change this. So for license, you get only 0.5 million. For maintenance, you get 9.5 million. Then withholding applies only to 0.5 million. Okay? If you do this, you can reduce the withholding significantly. So this is one way. Okay? Now, of course, you have to be ethical as well. So there is a limit on how much. There's got to be a limit on how much you can say, how valuable the maintenance service is. But then again, it's your client's decision which part, how they value each component of the agreement. If the client says, hey, maintenance is this much valuable, if the client can say that, you have to follow client's instruction. Of course, if the client says 9 million, if the client says, hey, license is much more valuable, then if you try to give the advice and say, hey, if you say this instead of that, then you will lower tax liability, then you may be then you should be careful. Okay? So best thing to do is, as soon as you get a license agreement, tell them about this early on so that they figure out what to say to you. Right? You know what I'm saying?
Does the U.S. government perform audits on these kind of
U.S. or all tax authorities. All tax authorities around the world conduct audits on all companies. We just don't know which ones will get audited at which year. But at least the theory is that every company will get audited at least once. And the tax liability, the statute of limitation is for like 3 years. So each company is always ready to pay for the past tax liability for 3 years going back. But then again, it's really difficult to find out from the companies, from the government's point of view, what's the real value of service as opposed to real value of license. The license fee is there is no really market rate for licensing a technology. So anyway, I have done this. I have done this to reduce withholding when the agreement had a maintenance service component. Okay. Second way of doing it is going through Hungary or Luxembourg. As I said, this peculiar arrangement of paying the tax to the other country or the other country's government is allowed only because there is a double taxation prevention treaty between the two countries. And most countries that have a sizable market, they have double taxation prevention treaties against, with one another. So Korea has the double tax treaty with almost all countries that Korea does business with. Has so like 115 double taxation treaties, which means almost all countries that you know the names of. If you ask me, oh, does Korea have a taxation prevention treaty with, I don't know, Burkina Faso? It's a company in Africa. Probably not. I don't know. But the business with that country will be so small that it's likely that Korea has not done double taxation treaty. Anyway, but there are those countries that refuse to have double taxation treaty, and it is one such country is Hungary. So if A has licensing deal with the B, say this is Korea, this is US, instead of going directly, you license to some company, C, in Hungary, and then C licensed to B, and of course the money also flows twice through C. If you do that, you can save the withholding. I've done this. I've done this successfully as well. And these companies, so these companies that work as conduits, you know what I mean by conduit, right? They charge money, but they charge like 1%, 2%. It's a small amount compared to the withholding that your clients have to suffer. Now so these are really two ways of avoiding, and the third way, grossing up, is what I did earlier. You just have to pay more money. So if your client is licensor and your client was supposed to get $1 million, just tell the client to increase the amount, to increase the royalty, so that they do get $1 million at the end. Okay? So change the amount so that 0.835 times N becomes $1 million. So that's what I mean by grossing up.